covered issues about disruption, or what capabilities you need to discover and develop to survive in the disruption market today. I suppose a subtitle of the talk would be How to Succeed Today. It's a much more succinct talk. And within that, I discussed the various capabilities. So, for example, everything from fostering a culture which supports innovation, all the way through to looking at the capabilities around how you judge an idea and how you come up with an innovative idea. And then from that, looking at the process you have to develop and design to take that idea into product and deliver it. Then how you actually manage the information you'll generate from that product, the market information, and from there develop your product strategy roadmap. And the real issue we had with data management was it looked like you had lots and lots of rules that conflicted. And in these organizations, they had multiple jurisdictions, they operated in multiple market segments. The rules seemed to conflict. The problem was they had to conform to the rules. They couldn't choose not to. If they didn't conform to the rules, they'd lose their business licenses. But at the same time, the cost of actually trying to conform to the rules was absolutely prohibitive. They just couldn't meet it. Another aspect which is quite interesting, and this one is very interesting indeed, is the area of payments. And this is quite interesting because the organizations involved all wanted to offer new payment services. These were very new. They wanted to offer service to the unbanked as well as the banked. They wanted to transfer micro payments as well as large-scale payments. They wanted to turn things like loyalty cards into a payment scheme. Imagine a Nectar card becoming a payment card. It could become a debit or a credit card or any other form of payment. They wanted to look also at whether they could have facility management built onto the same system. But they kept on coming up with the same constraints. And those constraints were that the architecture couldn't support the new services, or the cost of trying to support them on the architecture is prohibitive. You couldn't distribute small-scale funds on the existing systems. You couldn't change them because that would mean you'd disrupt the entire ecosystem. So what could they do? And the issue really is that to do this, you actually need to look at innovation. How do you develop an innovative stance? Unfortunately, this is now where you hit what they call the monster of inertia. You'll come across naysayers, and they'll come up with all sorts of reasons to reject those ideas. Some will be coherent, most will be incoherent. Some will be simply protecting the status quo. That may well be their job. But your job, if you're innovating, is to try to find a way around the objections. But what you then also have to do is think about the other capabilities, which will be dictated by the ideas you've got. That's when you look at the capabilities you need to identify to help you grow that innovation. That's when you need to look at the process that you will need to develop a solution from that idea and turn it into a solution which is viable. That's when you need to look at how you manage your data to help you define what your product strategy is going to be. But it all comes from getting that idea, that innovation. And what we really need to do is get a deep insight into what the customer's needs or wants really are, or what they will be. That is absolutely vital. Three categories, I think, are first of all that you can actually achieve what I like to term as unconscious disruption, which is where you can disrupt the market, you can disrupt the operation of the market, but you don't necessarily have to disrupt the consumer experience or the delivery. How do you develop a stance, for example, which allows you to cause or disrupt positively, if you achieve unconscious disruption, without disrupting the consumer, but disrupting the market in your favour? So what we need to do is look at the title of today's talk and perhaps turn it on its head. What does it really mean? Identifying the capabilities we need. How about asking the question, how do we identify those capabilities? Or more importantly, how do we succeed today? That's a question we have to ask. And what we really need to do is to foster that environment for creativity. What that means is we get rid of processes. You get rid of the constraints. You can impose the constraints later, but you cannot innovate in a process. It's almost impossible. So you need to free it up. But once you have got the innovation, once you have got the ideas, then you can bring the process to bear. What you need to be ready to do is to stand out, be an individual, stand out from the crowd, jump out of our comfort zones. That's what we have to do. And to borrow rather loosely from one advertising slogan, when everyone else is zigging, zag. The second is that you don't really need to destroy what you're doing now, today, to try to bring new products in. So you can build them simultaneously, you can run them alongside in parallel. The patient records scenario, again, was a very similar issue. Here, the real need was to grant granular access to the information to all those concerned, be they a medical practitioner, be they the patient. You put the patient in charge of all the access controls, and you met their privacy, so the regulators were happy. Once you did that, you could then start designing the architecture, the solution, to actually serve that need. The payments, again, was very, very interesting. Here, again, with the organizations, we saw that the infrastructure was key. What they were trying to do was shoehorn new systems onto an old infrastructure that couldn't support the new services. It supported existing services, but they couldn't get rid of the old infrastructure, so why not build a new infrastructure? It didn't have to replace the old infrastructure, it could run alongside the old infrastructure. It didn't have to interfere with the old infrastructure, but the new infrastructure could allow you to build new services very quickly. You could now offer services to the unbanked as well as the banked. You could have micropayments and macropayments. You could now turn a loyalty card into a full-blown payments card. Your payments card could also become an ID card. It could become a facilities management card. You now had Social Security, which should be issued along the same card or the phone or whatever you wished, but it didn't say it was Social Security, so there was no stigma to use it. And you could launch your services whenever you wanted to, because what you were doing was replacing the old, rather than replacing the old infrastructure, building a new infrastructure to run alongside the old. In fact, this has been done in the physical world. In Kenya, for example, the government is building a brand new railway alongside the existing Nairobi-Mombasa railway. They haven't dug up the old railway, that would mean there'll be no trains for the next few years. Use it, but you're going to have a new infrastructure with faster trains, which will be cheaper in the future. But nevertheless, you run both side by side. Focusing on the infrastructure allowed you then to meet all the other requirements, all the other customer needs, from the regulator's needs all the way through to the end user. And the third also was that anyone can disrupt the market, anyone can innovate. You just have to believe in yourself. That, I hope, are the three takeaways for today. We have to make a choice. We can choose whether to be imprisoned by what's gone in the past, our existing models, our existing systems, processes, or we can decide to break free. There's nothing quite like the prison you erect in your own mind. Innovation need not be frightening, but we have that choice to make. We can make it, we can try the ideas, and it need not disrupt what's happened in the past. But that's a choice we make. Do we try to innovate, or do we try to do what's always happened in the past? If we do that, we will be cannibalized. Someone's going to do it. Do we cannibalize our own products, or do others come do that for us? Either other parties in the organization we work with, or do competitors come and outmarket us? Think about the music players. How many competing music players now have had the success of the iPod? Very few. Why? Because it came in and supplanted them, because it met all the needs. So we can do that. We have 2 days, we're going to hear about disruption and how to address it front on. And then we go back to everyday work. We go back to our project boards that are full, we go back to overflowing inboxes, and we have the choice to make. Is it business as usual, or do we try and make a change? Because we can solve these problems. We can break them down to little bits, as Henry Ford said. It isn't a large problem, it's broken into little bits. And if we do that, we can actually control that disruption. We can get positive disruption. We can gain unconscious disruption. We're disrupting the market, not the consumer. We're not disrupting the existing system, we are creating new markets which we ourselves can actually dictate. Thank you very much indeed.